Ethan Okeke had everything a man could ask for: wealth, power, and freedom. He was the only child of Mr. and Mrs. Okeke, who were successful business people. They owned multiple businesses and vast properties across the country. When Ethan finished university, his parents handed over their businesses to him and retired to the village. Ethan enjoyed being rich. He lived in a big house in Lagos with tall gates and a swimming pool. He threw parties for his friends, drove flashy cars, and only wore the best clothes. People admired him wherever he went, and this made Ethan proud. He believed everyone should respect him because he was rich. Diana Okoji, on the other hand, came from a simple home. Her parents were teachers in Benin City. They didn't have much money, but they raised their children with love and strong values. Diana had always been ambitious. She loved designing clothes and dreamed of owning her own fashion house. After graduating from university, she started her small business from her parents' living room. Diana worked hard every day. She met clients, worked on her sewing machine, and saved every little profit she made. She believed that one day her business would grow. Though she was busy, she often prayed for a good husband who would love and support her. One sunny afternoon, Diana went to a mall in Lagos to meet a client. She wore a simple dress she had designed herself and carried a folder of her sketches. Ethan was at the same mall shopping for new sunglasses. He noticed Diana as she walked past him. "She's beautiful," he thought to himself. Her simplicity caught his attention, and he decided to approach her. "Excuse me," Ethan said, smiling confidently. Diana stopped and turned. "Yes. Can I help you?" "I'm sorry to bother you, but I couldn't help noticing you," Ethan said. "You have such a unique style. Are you a designer?" Diana smiled. "Yes, I am. I run a small fashion business." Ethan introduced himself, and they talked for a few minutes. He was charming and polite. Before they parted, Ethan asked for her phone number. Though Diana was hesitant at first, she gave it to him. From that day, Ethan called Diana often. He sent her flowers, texted her sweet messages, and even visited her shop. He praised her work and promised to introduce her to important clients. Diana was flattered by his attention. One evening, Ethan invited Diana to dinner at a fancy restaurant. She wore one of her best designs, and Ethan was impressed. "You look stunning," he said as they sat down. "Thank you," Diana replied, blushing. During dinner, Ethan asked, "What do you think about marriage?" Diana was surprised. "Marriage? I haven't thought about it much. My focus has been on my business." Ethan smiled. "Well, I think you'd make a wonderful wife. I'd like us to get to know each other better." Over the next few months, Ethan continued to court Diana. He made her feel special and important. Diana began to see him as a responsible and caring man. One weekend, Ethan invited Diana and her parents to his home. He had prepared a special dinner and decorated the living room with flowers. After dinner, Ethan got down on one knee and brought out a diamond ring. "Diana Okoji, will you marry me?" he asked. Diana was speechless. Her parents smiled, and her mother nodded encouragingly. Finally, Diana said, "Yes." The family celebrated the engagement. Diana's father told her, "Ethan seems like a good man. I believe he will take care of you." The wedding was the talk of the town. It was held in a grand hall in Lagos, with hundreds of guests in attendance. Diana wore a beautiful white gown, and Ethan looked dashing in his tailored suit. As Diana walked down the aisle, she felt like the luckiest woman in the world. She had married a man who promised to love and care for her forever. She believed her dreams were finally coming true. But she didn't know what was waiting for her in the future. At first, life as Ethan's wife was a dream come true for Diana. Their home was luxurious, with a large garden, expensive furniture, and a personal chef. Ethan continued to spoil her with gifts. Diana thought she had married the perfect man. "I'm so lucky," she often said to herself, admiring the life she now had. Even though Ethan encouraged her to stop working, Diana still managed to run her small fashion business from home. She loved designing clothes and didn't want to lose her dream. Ethan seemed fine with it initially, so Diana felt everything would work out. Things changed the first time Ethan visited his family in the village. Ethan's family, especially his mother, didn't like Diana. They felt she didn't come from a rich background and wasn't good enough for their son. Ethan's mother, Mrs. Okeke, was a proud woman who believed her son deserved someone from a wealthier family. "Why did you marry her, Ethan?" his mother asked during his visit. "That girl is too ambitious. Women like that don't respect their husbands." Ethan's sisters agreed. "She's probably after your money," one of them said. At first, Ethan defended Diana. "She's a good wife," he said. "She respects me and takes care of the house." But the constant pressure from his family started to affect him. By the time he returned to Lagos, his attitude had changed. Ethan became distant. He stopped complimenting Diana and began criticizing her instead. "Why do you still waste time on that fashion business?" he asked one evening. "It's my passion, Ethan," Diana replied. "I enjoy it." Ethan frowned. "You're my wife now. Your job is to take care of the house and prepare for our family." Diana was confused. "Ethan, I can do both. I promise my business won't affect my duties as your wife." But Ethan wasn't convinced. Over the next few weeks, he became colder and more controlling. The first time Ethan raised his hand to Diana was during an argument about money. "You spent too much on groceries this month," he said angrily. "But I only bought what we needed," Diana explained. "Don't argue with me," Ethan shouted, slapping her across the face. Diana was shocked. She couldn't believe the man she married would hit her. She cried all night, but Ethan didn't apologize. Instead, he blamed her. "You made me do it," he said. "If you respected me, this wouldn't have happened." Diana forgave him, hoping it was a one-time mistake. But it wasn't. Every time Ethan visited his family, things got worse. His mother and sisters filled his head with negative thoughts about Diana. "She's lazy," they said. "She's not raising her children properly. She's too focused on herself." When Ethan returned from these trips, he became even more abusive. "You're a useless wife," he said one evening. "You only care about your business. You don't care about me or this family." Diana tried her best to please him. She cooked his favorite meals, kept the house spotless, and gave up her business to focus on the family. But nothing she did was ever good enough. Ethan didn't stop at verbal abuse. He also isolated Diana from her friends and family. "You don't need anyone else," he said. "I'm your husband. Focus on me." Diana felt trapped and lonely. She couldn't talk to anyone about her problems. When she tried to call her parents, Ethan would get angry. "What are you telling them?" he asked suspiciously. "Are you complaining about me? Don't forget, you're nothing without me." Diana prayed every night, asking God to change Ethan's heart. She believed things would get better, especially after she became pregnant. When Diana gave birth to their first child, a baby girl, she hoped Ethan would soften. At first, he seemed happy. He held the baby and smiled. "She's beautiful," Ethan said. Diana thought it was a fresh start. But the happiness didn't last long. Ethan's family wasn't pleased that the first child was a girl. "When will you give us a son?" his mother asked during a visit. Diana felt pressured, but she tried to stay strong. A year later, she gave birth to a boy. She thought this would finally make Ethan happy. But instead of improving, Ethan became worse. He accused Diana of trying to take over his wealth through their children. "You're planning to kill me so you can inherit everything," he shouted one night. Diana was devastated. She couldn't understand why Ethan had become so cruel. One night, after Ethan beat her badly, Diana knew she had to leave. She packed a small bag, took her 2 children, and quietly left the house. She went straight to her parents' home in Benin City. When Diana's parents saw her, they were heartbroken. Her mother hugged her tightly and cried. "Diana, what happened?" her father asked. Through her tears, Diana told them everything. Her father was furious. "You're not going back to that man," he said firmly. Her mother agreed. "You've suffered enough, my child. We'll take care of you and your children." Diana sat quietly in her parents' living room, holding her 2 children close. Her daughter, Ada, was 4 years old, and her son, Toby, was barely 2. The bruises on Diana's face and arms were still fresh, but the pain in her heart was even deeper. Her father, Mr. Okoji, looked at her with sadness in his eyes. "Diana, you are safe here. Don't worry about anything," he said firmly. Her mother, Mrs. Okoji, placed a bowl of warm soup in front of her. "Eat, my dear," she said gently. "You need to regain your strength." Diana nodded but couldn't eat much. She felt broken and lost. She had given everything to her marriage, but it had all fallen apart. Over the next few weeks, Diana slowly started to heal. Her parents were kind and patient, giving her the love and care she needed. Her brothers, who were now successful in their own careers, also stepped in to help. One day, her eldest brother, Ken, visited her with a brown envelope. "Diana," he said, "I know how much your fashion business meant to you. I want you to start again." Diana opened the envelope and found a large sum of money. She looked at Ken with tears in her eyes. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. Ken smiled. "Just promise me one thing, don't let anyone take away your dreams again." Her younger brother, Sam, added, "We're here for you, sis. Whatever you need, just ask." Diana felt hope for the first time in years. With her family's support, she decided to rebuild her life. Diana used the money to rent a small shop in Benin City. She bought sewing machines, fabrics, and other supplies. She worked day and night, pouring all her pain and energy into her designs. At first, business was slow, but Diana didn't give up. She took to social media to showcase her work, posting pictures of her unique designs. Slowly, customers started noticing her talent. One day, a local TV station featured her story. "Meet Diana Okoji, a talented fashion designer who is making waves with her creative designs," the reporter said. The publicity brought more customers. Soon, Diana's shop was always busy. She hired a few assistants to help her meet the growing demand. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and hit the subscribe button for more interesting stories. Stay tuned for part 2.